So this is something I feel like if I was the president, and it's unlikely that that is ever going to happen.
You never know.
If I was the president...
It was unlikely that I was going to be president.
The moment I was inaugurated, my hand would just, it'd still be hot from touching the Bible, and I would immediately race to wherever they have the files about Area 51 and the UFOs, and I'd go through everything to find out what happened.
Right.
Did you do that?
That's why you will not be president. Because that's the first thing that you would do. The aliens won't let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
Now, you know, there are a lot of people that are going to examine your facial expressions here, every twitch, everything, and say, and of course, so did you look? Did you see? Did you explore?
I can't reveal anything.
Oh, really? Because President Clinton said he did go right in, and he did check, and there was nothing.
Well, you know, that's what we're instructed to say.
On this edition of Farrakhan Speaks.
Greetings to you. I am Minister Louis Farrakhan, National Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that great preacher of freedom, justice, and equality to the black man and woman of America and the Western Hemisphere, and to the aboriginal people of the earth, the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, and a warner to the government and people of the United States of America, and a warner to the nations of the earth. In this, our concluding series of broadcasts on the time and what must be done, I'd like to talk with you about the shadow government that hides the knowledge of this great wheel, even from the presidents of the United States that the American people have elected, and we will offer final guidance to our president and nation. A command by Allah to people of righteousness is contained in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, titled The Cow, verse 42. It reads, "And mix not up truth with falsehood, nor hide the truth while you know."
Even U.S. President Donald Trump weighed in.
I did have one very brief meeting on it, but people are saying they're seeing UFOs. Do I believe it? Not particularly.
You know, Mr. Knapp wrote, since 1969, the position of our military has been that UFOs pose no threat to national security and are not worthy of further study. I'd say that's the biggest understatement of the decade. And he also goes on to talk about the dismissive attitude. It's at odds with what was revealed in documents, reports, and internal memos. And Mr. Cabral says, as he writes these words, the UFO is emerging as a major topic of global importance. I can state that as a fact. Out there, I met a fellow who came in here all the way from Denmark to be here for this meeting. So this is huge. This is worldwide. I think we suspect what's going on, but I'd also like to thank the members of Congress who have supported our efforts to make this hearing happen. Some have even confided to me that they've had UFO sightings of their own. Those members, of course, some of them wish to remain anonymous, and I'll keep it that way. But also, finally, I'd like to thank these three brave witnesses here. They took an oath. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and dadgummit, they're doing it. And we owe them a debt of gratitude.
If you are keeping from citizens who are being elected to govern such critical knowledge, and you are still using the terms democracy and Republican institutions, but from the setting up of secret or black budgets to hide the knowledge of what you are doing, you have started down the slippery slope of destroying democracy, destroying the Constitution, destroying Republican institutions. So today, you still use the word democracy, you still use the word republic, but this is all being destroyed. So the citizens are being infantilized, which means to keep from maturing, to make somebody infantile, or to keep somebody in an infantile state, to treat as a baby, to treat somebody as or consider somebody to be infantile.
Could you tell me why you believe it's, kind of to play the devil's advocate, a reason why some of this stuff should not be available to the public?
There's certainly some national security concerns when we use our advanced sensors in our tactical jets to be able to identify these objects. However, there's no reason that the objects themselves would be classified. I would be curious to see how the security classification guideline actually spells out the different nuances of how this topic is classified from the perspective of UAP, not national security.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching, and the government of the United States has been hiding the truth from not only the American people, but they made the knowledge of this great wheel above top secret.
We leave you tonight with a new search for answers to that age-old question. Is anyone out there? Well, an uptick in UFO sightings from credible witnesses has suddenly got Washington's attention. As CTV's Richard Madden reports, some of the strange sightings were caught on tape.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 miles from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
A close encounter spotted by a U.S. Air Force pilot off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh my gosh, dude. Wow.
Shot in 2015, this video is among the growing number of UFO sightings in recent years. So much, the U.S. military gave a classified briefing on Capitol Hill last week titled Threats to the Safety and Security of Our Aviators.
One of the key takeaways I'd have is that the military and others are taking this issue seriously, which I think in previous generations may not have been the case.
And top secret is the hydrogen bomb. And the mother plane, this great wheel, was a top secret above that. The knowledge of this has been hidden from them, forbidden to the elected presidents of the United States of America. Knowing that their term in office would only be 4 years or 8 years, they forbade the presidents to know this, fearing that after they left office, they might inform the American people of what they knew.
Yeah, follow up on that. Assuming that there are reasons why not all this should be made public, this has been around for a long period of time. Can any of the three of you think of any reason why anything related to UAPs, say 15 years and back, should not be immediately made public?
I think one of it is acknowledging a vulnerability, both from a collection and I'll just say a countermeasure perspective. So it's that we haven't cracked for many years. Yeah.
Even say 20 years back. Is there any reason why, when you go back that far, things shouldn't be made public?
Unless it shows a specific national security vulnerability as it relates to a weakness in a particular defense system.
Okay, Mr.
The government of the United States of America and the scientists in her government have known about the presence of this great wheel since the 1940s, when they raided the home and the temple of the Nation of Islam and took from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad the writings of Master Farad Muhammad to him, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's writings and drawings of the wheel. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the FBI bore witness to him that they had seen it, and of course what he was teaching was the truth. He said, one FBI official took a pistol and put it to his head and said, quote, "I ought to blow your brains out," close quote. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, quote, "You will if it pleases Allah, but if it doesn't please Allah, you won't," close quote. And the enemy said to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, "Had you taught this 20 years earlier, you would have been shot outright. But in other words, you are on time, so go and teach your people."
Do you believe UAPs pose a potential threat to our national security?
Yes, and here's why. The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had, and you could put that anywhere. If you had one, you captured one, you reverse engineered it, you got it to work, you're talking something that can go into space, go someplace, drop down in a matter of seconds, do whatever it wants, and leave, and there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing.
These wheels have been seen since 1929, and they have not attacked any city or anyone. We're talking about the destructive power of the wheel, yet to many they have been harmless. They have not attacked one city, but they have been seen over the cities of the earth. Millions have seen them, and they have hovered over the most sensitive military bases of every nation that has nuclear weapons. And they have shown their power to neutralize these dreadful intercontinental ballistic missiles that are loaded with nuclear power. Yet one of these wheels can come over the place where these silos are and where these missiles are, and these missiles cannot be fired. In fact, they can do what they have done: render these things inoperable, and when they leave, they can restore it to its original condition. The scientists that made these intercontinental ballistic missiles thought of every possibility that could render these missiles inoperable. They felt that it was foolproof. And then a wheel came over the place where these missiles were and showed them that they had no power to move those missiles at all. Just the presence of the wheel has stopped automobiles from moving, turned the lights of a whole city or region off. They have incredible power that God is showing you that He can take you out in the twinkling of an eye. Boy, no wonder Ezekiel cried out when he saw this magnificent masterpiece of mechanics. Boy, I'll say it again, and this time it's coming from my mouth. Oh, wheel. Oh, wheel.
Mr. Grush, in your complaint to the Intelligence Community Inspector General, you claim that you believe information is being hidden. What kind of information do you think was hidden, and do you think it should remain hidden?
Yes, I can speak to that very briefly in an unclassified manner. As you know, the preponderance of my complaint was classified to the intelligence communities. Both material acquisition and exploitation activity, also baselining the UAPs but not sharing it with intelligence professionals that are actually doing step briefs to pilots, that kind of information. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll...
Judge Gesell studied a 21-page National Security Agency affidavit in camera, which means in judges' chambers in private, and ruled that the agency was fully justified in withholding the documents in their entirety. The judge's decision in its memorandum opinion and order granted dismissal. In part, it says, throughout the court's review, of this material. The court has been aware of the public interest in the issue of UFOs and the need to balance that interest against the agency's need for secrecy. The in-camera affidavit presents factual considerations which aided the court in determining that the public interest in disclosure is far outweighed by the sensitive nature of the materials and the obvious effect on national security their release may well entail. The judge therefore said the case is dismissed. In other words, there's something so relevant to national security that it far outweighs the need of the public and even the presidents to know about these unidentified flying objects. Since this is public record and other things are public record, what was denied to presidents that is considered above top secret? What is it? And what would it be except that it would be some greater knowledge of the wheel, its power, and the reality of its occupants? They don't mind you knowing that something is out there that is flying around, because practically every president in recent history knew that because they said they have seen it. But when they dug to get the deeper aspects of what they have seen and what has been learned, they were shut down.
Have you faced any retaliation or reprisals for any of your testimony or anything on these lines?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say in detail because there is an open whistleblower reprisal investigation on my behalf, and I don't want to compromise that investigation by providing anything that may help provide somebody information. But it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank. Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. As they say, when you're over the target, that's when they do the most firing at you. Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes. Personally.
Have anyone been murdered that you would that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
Maybe in a, if we could get in a confidential area, SCIF, we could talk about that. But unfortunately, we were denied access to the SCIF, and that's very unfortunate in this scenario.
Today, this shadow government appears to be comprised of various agencies and departments within and across branches of the government that form a massive intelligence apparatus. It is not that each agency knows all of this. It is individuals, and they know in part. But only a very, very few have the full knowledge, and if they break the secret, then you may find them dead somewhere. This is a secret that you are not allowed to know. And if you know, you are under surveillance, and the threat of death accompanies you and your family.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back to you for no time.
Very good. Mr. Raskin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Graves, you reported UAP encounters during training flights, I think, and have since come forward to warn the Pentagon that these encounters may be putting pilots at risk. My first question is, you've identified these as taking place on the East Coast. Is it just on the East Coast where these encounters have been reported?
No. Since the events initially occurred, I've learned that the objects have been detected essentially where all operations, Navy operations are being conducted across the world. And that's from the All-Domain Anomaly Resolutions Office reporting.
There's great interest among the American people and people of the world about this much talked of phenomenon known as UFOs. It is talked about in every country, particularly the countries that hold sway on the earth and who have nuclear arsenals and are engaged in great preparation for this final war. And there are others who have seen and have been so intimidated by our government that they have refused to tell even their wives or their children what they have experienced, and some have taken the secrets of what they know to their graves. Other nations have started letting their people know that such phenomena exists.
Are there common characteristics to the UAPs that have been cited by different pilots, and can you describe what the convergence of descriptions is?
Certainly. We were primarily seeing dark gray or black cubes inside of a clear sphere.
I'm sorry, dark gray or black cubes?
Yes, inside of a clear sphere, where the apex or tips of the cube were touching the inside of that sphere. And that was primarily what was being reported when we were able to gain a visual tally of these objects. And that occurred over almost 8 years. And as far as I know, it's still occurring.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in an article entitled "The Battle in the Sky is Near," he writes of the wheel, the mother plane, in these words: "It is the largest mechanical man-made object in the sky. It is a small human-built planet made for the purpose of destroying the present world of the enemies of God. The cost to build such a plane is staggering. The finest brains were used to build it. It is capable of staying in outer space 6 to 12 months at a time without coming into the Earth's gravity. It carries 1,500 bombing planes with the most deadly explosives, the type used in bringing up mountains on the earth. The very same method is to be used in the destruction of this world."
Mr. Favor, do you believe that you witnessed an additional object under the water in relation to your encounter?
I will say we did not see an object. There was something there to cause the whitewater, and when we turned around, it was gone, so there was something there that obviously moved.
Okay, it was not the same object, though, that you were looking at, correct?
No, we actually joked that the Tic Tac was communicating with something when we came back, and because the whitewater disappeared.
We were, in another instance, we're told about the capabilities of a jamming during viewing of when there were some people chasing some of these objects. Did you experience any of that jamming or interrupting your radar or weapons system?
My crew that launched after we landed experienced significant jamming to the APG-73 radar, which was what we had on board, which is a mechanically scanned, very high-end system prior to the APG-79. And yes, it did pretty much everything you could do: range, velocity, aspect, and then it spit the lock, and the targeting pod is passive. That's what we were able to get the video on.
I'm about to run out of time, but are you aware of any of our enemies that have that capability?
No.
Okay. I would also like to note for the record that, like George Knapp breaking Area 51, he's the reason I knew about that, and the reason I know about the Tic Tacs is Leslie Keene from New York Times article, and I would encourage everybody to read that.
In my hotel suite in Tripoli, Libya, the top echelon of the Libyan government, except Muammar Gaddafi and Major Abdul Salim Jaloud, were in my suite. And I told them what I learned in my vision-like experience from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when I finished, they literally fled out of my room. And within a month, America bombed Libya. The fight started 2 weeks before the actual bombing took place, but something happened, and one of the great aircraft carriers had to go back to Florida for repairs. And it came out in the Arab newspaper in Saudi Arabia that a bright, shining object was seen over the Mediterranean. I called back to the United States even before I read that article in Saudi. I said the wheel is present in the Mediterranean and it's interfering with the highly sensitive electronic equipment on that aircraft carrier. And that aircraft carrier had to go back to Florida for repairs, and a similar aircraft carrier was sent to Libya in its place. That gave me time to leave Libya and go to Saudi Arabia.
Mr. Graves on that.
Okay. Just briefly, I also just want to note, particularly for the two pilots, and I have a question for Mr. Grush. One of the things that I found fascinating in our discussion, Mr. Graves, last night as well, is that you both described UAPs and formations and the way they are observed in space or in our air, and the way that they move is essentially ways in which current technology or aircraft that we know of are unable to actually function or move. And so will you just, for the public record, again, once again, briefly just either describe or note that aircraft that are being witnessed, particularly by the 30 folks that you're working with, are essentially outside the scope of anything that we know of today and the technology we have today. Mr. Graves, Mr. Fravor?
Yes, the objects that are being seen by commercial pilots are performing maneuvers that are unexplainable due to our current understanding of our technology and our capabilities as a country, and that applies for the military as well.
Mr. Fravor?
Yeah, I concur with that. We have nothing that can stop in midair and go the other direction, nor do we have anything that can, like in our situation, come down from space, hang out for 3 hours, and go back up.
And the Washington Post reported on the front page a few years ago, a Japanese pilot, Captain Kenju Terauchi, who is not crazy, who had been flying planes for nearly 30 years, that he saw this not only on his radar, but he monitored this great wheel for nearly an hour and a half between Asia, the Bering Straits, and Alaska. And he drew a picture which the Washington Post put on the front page, comparing his 747 to this huge mother of planes. He said it looked like two huge aircraft carriers in length, which bore witness to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, because the largest aircraft carrier is about 440 yards, a quarter of a mile, and two of them together would be a half a mile.
My last question, and sometimes I know that you have also said some of these answers in the past, but we're trying to get them on the public record as well, which is really important. Mr. Grush, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General, and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had the people with the firsthand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I would just say that I think that these questions are important questions, and I look forward to being involved in the process to get those answered. I know there'll be a lot of questions from other committee members, so I yield back.
President Obama, let's open up Roswell. Summon the scientists from all over the world to America under your auspices. And you go with them, along with Presidents Carter, Clinton, and with Presidents Bush 41 and Bush 43, and look at what Allah sent to you and study it. And if you think there can be a better world from the knowledge that Allah God introduced for us to use, why, that was like a man coming to you, giving you his card and giving you his address and telephone number, saying, if you'd like to reach me, just call me. I'm sending you a wheel, a few of them as my calling card. So when the scripture says, I am that I am, the first I am means that I'm present. I'm in the present tense. The second I am means I exist. I am the answer to the verb to be. I am. I'm not only in existence, now I am present and I am in power. I am that I am, and I have power over all things. So tell them, Farrakhan, tell them that's who sent you.
Mr. Favor, what astonished you the most about the flight capabilities of these Tic Tac, very briefly?
The performance, absolute performance. It was.
And you're not aware of any other objects that anybody in the world has, in this world, that has those capabilities?
No, I think it's far beyond actually our material science that we currently possess.
Are you aware of any other reconnaissance platforms that have tracked or recorded the Tic Tac's maneuvers, maybe the NORAD system or any of the others?
I am not.
Okay.
There's nothing in existence that you have that can stop on a dime. Go north, go south, go east, go west, go up, go down, and then move so fast that it is almost like they're moving at the speed of light. Not that they are, but their movement is so fast. Now you see them, now you don't. And this is why, my beloved black brothers and sisters, the scriptures warn us that vengeance is mine, he says. He says to his people, be still and know that I am God. I am your defender. I am your protector. Vengeance is mine.
Mr. Graves, again, I'd like to know, how do you know that these were not our aircraft?
Some of the behaviors that we saw in a working area, we would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's 0 airspeed, over certain pieces of the ground. So what that means, just like a river, if you throw a bobber in, it's going to float downstream. These objects were staying completely stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds. These same objects would then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1, 1.2 Mach, and they would do so in very erratic and quick behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
Okay. Have you spoken to commercial and military pilots that have seen these off of our East Coast?
I have.
Okay.
You will begin to see these wheels, more of them, or what you call UFOs, in abundance over the major cities of America, and the calamities that America is presently experiencing will increase in number and intensity, that you might humble yourselves to the warning contained in the announcement that I made in 1989, and to the teachings that I'm giving you about this wheel today, or you will be totally destroyed from the face of the earth.
Mr. Moskowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, let's talk about the laws of physics for a second. Mr. Graves and Commander Favor, I heard you talk about speed. When those objects broke the sound barrier, did they make a sonic boom?
I was in a jet. You can't hear anything. It's kind of loud in there.
Yeah, you're not able to actually personally tell within the vehicle. I will say the objects that we were seeing, they were spherical, and they were observed up to Mach 2, which is a very non-aerodynamic shape.
What about G-forces? Let's talk about G-forces of those vehicles. Could a human survive those G-forces with known technology today?
No.
No, not for the acceleration rates that we observed.
Okay. What about what they look like? How close did you get? Did you see a seam or a rivet or a section? And what I mean is, obviously, the jets you're flying have all those things. Did these objects have those?
Do you want to go, Ryan?
I didn't have the detail to be able to tell that.
So we got within a half mile of the Tic Tac, which people say that's pretty far, but in airplanes, that's actually relatively close. No, it was perfectly white, smooth, no windows, although when we did take the original FLIR video that is out there, when you put it on a big screen, it actually had two little objects that came out of the bottom of it. But other than that, no windows, no seams, no nothing.
Mr. Grush, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Mr. Grush, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself about ATs, advanced technologies that the U.S. government has?
Based on conventional advanced tech, I was briefed to the preponderance of the Defense Department's both space and aerospace compartmented programs, yeah.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says this great masterpiece of science and engineering and technology that the scientists of this world say that the technology that they have seen demonstrated in these wheels is millions of years ahead of themselves and what they know. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the wheel was made on the island of Nippon that is now called Japan. He said some of the finest brains of the original people were used in making this greatest object of military science. And this wheel, as it rose up from the earth, it came following the Son of Man from the east, now even unto the west, and this great wheel is sitting up above the United States of America, 40 miles out of the Earth's atmosphere in space.
Do you have knowledge or do you have reason to believe that there are programs in the advanced tech space that are unsanctioned?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say that they're above congressional oversight, what do you mean?
Complicated question. So there's, some, I would call it abuse here. So congressional oversight of conventional special access programs, so I'll use Title 10, so DOD as an example, right? So 10 U.S. Code Section 119 discusses congressional oversight of SAPs, discusses the DepSecDef's ability to waive congressional reporting. However, the Gang of Eight is at least supposed to be notified if a waived or waive-bigoted unacknowledged SAP is created, and that's public law.
Well, so that how does, I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but how does a program like that get funded?
I will give you generalities. I can get very specific in a closed session, but misappropriation of funds and
does that mean
self-fund.
does that mean that there is money in the budget that is said to go to a program, but it doesn't, and it goes to something else?
Yes, I have specific knowledge of that. Yep.
Do you think U.S. corporations are overcharging for certain tech they're selling to the U.S. government, and that additional money is going to programs?
Correct, through something called IRAD.
Okay.
All of these agencies and branches of government are engaged in intelligence activities through what is termed black budget operations. The definition of the term black budget is of or relating to covert intelligence operations. What is the definition of covert? It means concealed, secret, disguised, covered, sheltered. In an article published on August 29th, 2013 in the Washington Post titled U.S. Spy Network's Successes, Failures, and Objectives Detailed in Black Budget Summary by Barton Gelman and Greg Miller. Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper Jr., takes the position that the details of intelligence activities shouldn't be publicly disclosed. He states, quote, "Our budgets are classified," he said, "as they could provide insight for foreign intelligence services to discern our top national priorities, capabilities, and sources and methods that allow us to obtain information to counter threats." Close quote.
Explain to me in detail the event that occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Certainly. In the 2003 timeframe, a large group of Boeing contractors were operating near one of the launch facilities at Vandenberg Air Force Base when they observed a very large 100-yard sided red square approach the base from the ocean and hover at low altitude over one of the launch facilities. This object remained for about 45 seconds or so before darting off over the mountains. There was a similar event within 24 hours later in the evening. This was a morning event, I believe 8:45 in the morning. Later in the evening, post-sunset, there were reports of other sightings on base, including some aggressive behaviors. These objects were approaching some of the security guards at rapid speeds before darting off. And this is information that was received through one of the witnesses that have approached me at Americans for Safe Aerospace.
Was this documented in any official form, whether it was a police blotter?
Yes, they had official documentation and records from the event that the witness held over the years.
And I'm not going to ask you to do it right now for time reasons, but you'd be able to sketch what was witnessed, correct? And have you seen that before on any other equipment and or during your flight time?
I have not seen what they've described. This object was estimated to be almost the size of a football field, and I have not seen anything personally that large.
Okay, and then another question on follow-up referencing the gimbal video Go Fast incident. Can you just clarify, because to our understanding, the footage was actually cut off at a certain point, but what happens at the end of that video, just for those Americans specifically that are wanting to know about the rest of that footage?
Certainly. There was some uncertainty or instability with the object. It seemed to rock a bit, and that's the last I had seen of the video. Much of the data that I would recommend be analyzed would consist of radar data that would provide precise kinematics on the object, as well as the fleet of objects that were operating nearby.
You know, our people in slavery used to sing a song, "Swing low, sweet chariot, coming to carry me home." It was a band of angels coming after me, coming to carry me home. In the book of Ezekiel, it talks about these wheels and the cherubims, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it only means the presence of angels on these wheels, angels that are human beings. So in the Bible it says, remember, be careful how you entertain strangers, for you may be entertaining angels unaware. No little green men with olive skin and funny-looking heads, human beings that look just like you and me, but they are members of the original nation, the power of which you have not seen displayed, because it was your time to rule. You have not even the brains to build a mechanical object like that which is above your heads. So teaches the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And if you built one like it, you could not get it up into outer space.
Satellite imagery. Let's talk about satellite imagery. We have satellites all over the place, some that we're aware of and many that we're not aware of, right? We're taking pictures of everything at every point and second. Mr. Grush, are you aware, do you have direct knowledge, or have you talked to people with direct knowledge that there are satellite imagery of these events?
That was one of my primary tasks at NGA, since we process, exploit, and disseminate that kind of information. I've seen multiple cases, some of which, to my understanding, and of course I left NGA in April, so that's my information cutoff date. But I personally reviewed both what we call overhead collection and from other strategic and tactical platforms that I could not even explain prosaically. And I have a degree in physics, by the way, as well. And I am aware that you guys have not seen these reports, unfortunately. And I don't know why.
Do you have direct knowledge, or you've spoken to people with direct knowledge that this imagery applies to crash sites, crash imagery?
I can't discuss that in an open session.
Okay. Do you have any information that the U.S. government is involved in a disinformation campaign to deny the existence of certain UAPs?
I can't go beyond what I've already stated publicly in my News Nation interview because it touches other sensitivities.
Okay. I'll yield the balance of my time back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, I really don't know if anything exists in Roswell, Area 51, out in New Mexico. But if something is there, they are saying that certain wheels crashed. I know that no wheel crashed. But if you have a wheel, it is a gift from the beneficent God to show you more conclusively that He is present and what you could achieve if you submitted. He, the master of the wheels, would teach you. So He sent you a sign. That's all it is. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said these wheels were made with the finest steel. You've been trying to get all your metallurgists to try to figure out how the steel that's on the wheel was made. And oh, look, there's so much for you to learn. What is a metallurgist? A metallurgist is a person who practices or specializes in the field of metallurgy. Metallurgy is the technique or science of working or heating metals so as to give them certain desired properties. It's the technique or science of making and compounding alloys. It's the technique or science of separating metals from their ores.
At the California Nanosystems Institute at UCLA, Dr. Rick Kaner is spearheading the development of the world's toughest, most advanced materials, the kind of materials that could someday revolutionize space travel.
So our material is tungsten tetraboride. This is the hardest synthetic metal, or the hardest metal for that matter, known to man.
This supermetal can scratch the hardest natural substance we know of, diamond.
It's a really old method for mixing, kind of like the alchemy of the 1700s. But using this super simple method, we're making a super hard material.
A 5,400-degree flame fuses the tungsten and boride powders into a supermetal.
So, what you have here is the hardest metal known to man.
The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated in an article he wrote, quote, "You may wish, Mr. Enemy, that you could get a shot at the wheel with your jet planes and other military weapons. But you should just go home and go to sleep. No one can harm this plane, the wheel." So he asked the question, why are you spending billions of dollars, wasting your money to fight a war that is written you were born to lose from the day you were made? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if I were you, enemy, I would just give up. You know that's wise, because whenever you meet a force that you can't overcome, you give up. In the mixed martial arts, when you cannot overcome the force that is pressing you, you tap out. America, you can't win this one. Tap out. Why waste the taxpayers' money building planes when you have nothing that can attack this, but it can attack you anytime it desires? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says they have about 4 or 5 scientists up there that can tune up on you. What do you mean, tune up? That's why you have many of your skilled scientists of paranormal knowledge studying them, because they've communicated without words. They know your and our thoughts. And as your thoughts arise in your head, before your thought can materialize, they already have you. That's why I asked them to show you the wheels.
Yes, sir.
Because I've also asked Allah to send them over here.
Yes, sir.
Just to confirm what I've said today.
Yes, sir.
That the man that I'm representing to you, those 2 men, they are the masters of the wheels.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't even look like a plane, does it?
It's like a spacecraft.
Yes.
I don't know what the this is, but whatever it is not a plane, and this is moving fast.
I'm telling you, those aren't planes.
There's
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
UFO, you got it. You got it.
I'm recording right now. I'm recording. Look.
UFO over Southside. Hey, yo, what the fuck is that?
You see how it's moving?
Nobody else looking at this shit. Don't nobody else see this shit.
I'm getting it.
UFO! UFO motherfucking O!
Get the f out of here! That is a UFO, y'all. Hey, what? Hey, we don't have that stop in mid-air. We don't have that stop in mid-air.
UFO. It's still there. It is not a helicopter. Helicopters don't maneuver like that. Now it's going back up. Hey, look it, it's going back up.
When I close down in the garden,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
the God will do some work.
Yes, sir. Not no lantern, bro. That defies logic.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It looks like a damn UFO.
Why is it supposed to... Where's it going?
I know I'm not tripping.
asar bangun.
Una especie de objetos voladores no identificados, llámense ovnis, cambiando de colores. Son 5.
Que porra é isso, hein?
Eu sei.
Não, drone não?
É não, na altura dessa. Tá vendo?
Acabar é o mundo aí, viu? Piscadeira danada, velho.
Tem uma luzinha piscando, ó.
UFO 啊，是什么东西啊？这个是，怎么在跑啊？
And it's making a noise, man. The sky's blue and it's making a noise, bro. What the is that, bro? Look at that. Sweet, bro. It just turned blue, man, and it's making a noise, bro. Look at the sky, how it just turned, man. Bro, this whole sky just oh, nah, chill, nah, yo, get the yo.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط